Hello, my lovely, and welcome back to another episode of the Glimmer Seekers podcast. What is your glimmer? Now, last week I tried to do an intro, so I thought maybe I'll try again this week. Hello, I'm Annie Eclectic. I am a mum of a child with a difference. I have two passion businesses. I am the founder of the Glimmer Seekers Collective, which is a space where we focus on learning how to bring our shine to our passion businesses. We use the energies that nature brings us. We look at things like mindfulness, and here I will be as raw and unedited as possible and free flowing because I don't know how to do anything else. How was that for an intro? I hope that was good. I felt really professional. So I'm actually wearing the same top as the last one because I haven't moved, mostly because my legs are crossed and I'm worried that if I move, I might not get them back in that position. I also have a problem with getting very easily distracted, and I have quite a small time window to work in. And thinking about the fact that I have this small time window, I thought maybe I would talk about a phrase that I came up with when I was creating the autumn goal setting and just creating kind of the goal setting method that I would love to encourage people to use. And one of those sections is about working to your most limited self. And that's not a negative thing. I usually don't really use the word limited because it associates with like limiting beliefs. And I have some thoughts on that, and that will be another episode at some point. But I like to think of the word limits as a way to see boundaries, to way to see opportunities, because when you have a limitation, that means that you have a certain space to play in, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to stay within the limitations that maybe traditionally would be placed in that space. So for me, I'm thinking about the fact that I have got this small window. I thought I had a much larger window. My son is at his grandma's and he was going to be hanging out with his cousin this afternoon, but unfortunately, his cousin has got a sore throat and a cough, and my son's health means that we kind of try to limit the amount of germs and things that he comes across because quite often it can land us in hospital, for a day, for a week and a half. We never know. Um, and, if we know that there's germs in a place, we're not going to necessarily put him in that space. So for me, that means that the work that I was hoping to get done has been cut down by about 3 hours. So I just thought, right, I am working to the limitations that have been created for me within this space. I'm set up, I'm going, I'm on it. I was afraid when I first started to film for the last episode, and actually I got into a flow and I thought, if I get up, if I go to change my top, because the internet gurus tell you that you're supposed to change your outfits between filming and blah blah blah, all of that nonsense, I could lose the thread, and that would be awful, wouldn't it? So I am working to the limited capabilities that I have right now, to my limited most self. And one of the reasons that I like to talk about this with the people that I work with their passion businesses, is because there is so much joy in it and there's very little disappointment. I don't know about you, but I am a massive overachiever, and I will always, if I do a to-do list, which it doesn't happen very often because to-do list feels too much like someone's telling me what to do. My to-do list will not just be a couple of things. It will be like two A4 sides of to-do things. And my brain tells me that everything takes 20 minutes. That is definitely a fallout from working with a particular manager in my former career, where he just felt like everything took 20 minutes. It absolutely did not. But the challenge was always there. So it was a bit like, oh, okay, this thing that used to take me an hour and a half, I'm going to try and do it in 20 minutes. But that's just not reality. And especially when you are running your own business as well. There are so many caveats to running your own business. There's so many hats, there's so many plates to spin. There is so much going on. It's really, really easy to create a massive list of things where there is no flow to start off with. Oh, I'm going to write my accounts, and then I'm going to create social media, and then I'm going to go and do a crystal healing session for somebody, and then I'm going to go and do this, I'm going to go do that. And it's like, oh, there is no cohesion to this, there is no flow. Like, if you're going to do a lot of things, try to think of it the way that an ADHD person cleans. Start in one point and you'll clean that thing, you'll take it to the other place, and you'll notice that there's something needs to be done in that place, and then you'll do that thing and that will lead you to another place, and you'll notice there's something to do in that space, and eventually you will get the things done. Not necessarily in the order that the to-do list put it down at, but please don't overface yourself, because you will trigger a couple of things if you do this. Especially if you are not a neurotypical person and you do have a slightly neurospicy noggin. Doing a to-do list is just it's not the thing. One of the members in the Glimmer Seekers collective, she put us on to a creator on TikTok who actually said that the way she does her to-do lists is she actually creates like a quest list and makes it more like an adventure. And that really does sound so much more appealing. Like, I think for somebody who has like an interest-based nervous system, which if you are a bit neurospicy, that does tend to be how you are likely to thrive. So I am thriving a bit more because of the time pressure now. I am thriving a bit more because this truly is the last opportunity for me to film these episodes. I have it in my head that I would like to do at least 4, so I've got a month's worth of episodes to work with. And time just kept getting away from me. There would be something that would come up and it would mean that my son would need to be at home. We spent a week and a half in hospital. He's not been able to go to nursery because they've got something horrific going round. He's not been able to go to grandma's because grandma's been ill. Like, all these natural things happen. And this truly is the last opportunity that I have to be able to get an episode out on Monday. It's Thursday today. I could possibly film tomorrow when my kiddo goes back to nursery, but my partner would be in the house and that could trigger the RSD that I suffer from, performance anxiety. And I don't think I would do such a good job. So, to work within my limitations, I'm allowing myself to not get changed. I'm also allowing myself to say that if I only get 2 episodes filmed, in fact, I said to myself, if I only get 1 episode filmed, that's 1 better than none. That's 1 better than if I had allowed myself to get distracted making jewelry, which was a great possibility today. And really pushing it to the wire. I'm pushing myself into a situation where I would risk damaging the continuity of this podcast, which would then probably kick up a whole load of feeling of shame, which would send me into a spiral where that would be the end of the podcast. So it's quite a journey to get here, isn't it? And I was talking about working to your most limited self. I always say to people, try to only give yourself 3 things to do, like a maximum of 3 things to do, and don't do the most boring thing first, or don't do the hardest thing. Do the the least exciting thing first, because you get that out of the way and like kind of increase the excitement as you go through your list. So don't look at priority in terms of like time constraints or reactivity or whatever, because you probably won't get the things done. If you get the most boring like thing done first, then it's done, isn't it? And then you're like, oh yeah, I get to go do this. Like a reward. It's like a reward system. And doing it that way, you're more likely to increase your happy hormones, so like your serotonin and your dopamine, and get those little neuropeptides going around your body, being like, yeah, everything's a party in here. And I would say that you're more likely to achieve more by setting yourself a much smaller quest list than if you were to give yourself a huge list of to-do things, risking setting off, executive dysfunction or something where you just get completely overwhelmed, that you end up not doing any of it and you sit doom scrolling on Instagram or TikTok or something like that, and actually end up feeling quite depressed and down on yourself because you let yourself get distracted and you didn't do the thing that you were meant to do. And as passion business owners, most of us do this alone, which means that we have to be really motivated, and we do actually have to be quite what's the word? Motivated, not motivated, strict. Is it strict? You do have to be kind of strict with yourself, because you are the only one who can push the needle forward on your business. Even with having like a collective like I have, or a business mentor, those people can only talk to you about what you need to do. They can't make you do it. You can have as many accountability partners as your phone can hold, but only you can do the work, which means that you have to work out the best way for you to achieve those things. And if you are working to your most limited self, that means that no matter what you achieve or what you set out to achieve, you're always going to be happy with the result. Because if you are in a position to be able to work to a greater capacity than your limited self, then you're going to achieve even more. And you're going to be like, oh my God, I am amazing. This is incredible. But at the same time, if you achieve those things that you have set yourself in your most limited capacity, you are still going to feel amazing. You are still going to just have achieved everything that you set out to do. And the hardest part of that is being honest with yourself and identifying what your most limited self is and being okay with that, because that's quite a hard thing to do. That's quite it's quite an emotional thing to do. And sometimes it means that you have to face certain things about yourself that you've perhaps been avoiding. You have to face, potentially, for me, I have to face things about my son's health and how that affects my life and how it affects the functions of my passion businesses. And I am very open and I'm very honest about that. And I truly hope that my community appreciates that. And I hope that they appreciate the fact that I am so open about it, because I need to be able to communicate to them that there are times when their orders are going to take longer than we initially thought they were going to. Especially a lot of the crystal work, because at a certain point, yes, I can do the jewelry making when I'm hanging out with the kid or the cat, the kid, everybody. But when it comes to doing the energy work, I can't do that with other people around, because that means that the crazy energy is potentially being transferred into the crystal, which then gets transferred to their new owner, and that's not good. So I have to recognize the fact that I have those limitations. I have those things that have been put into my space. And the way that I worked out to be able to kind of combat that and to bring that into my business is to talk about it and to be honest about it. And in fact, doing that is one of the ways that I ended up here, doing this podcast, with doing the Glimmer Seekers, doing the collective, working with the people that I work with. And I think it's because they resonate, because they have their own limitations and they recognize that fact. And for some people, it's a really, really hard piece of work to do. So please be gentle with yourself, bring yourself kindness, give yourself some grace, but at the same time, grace isn't an excuse not to do something. Giving yourself grace is giving yourself the space for acceptance before taking that first step into the brave zone of discovery, of finding out what your limitations are, and celebrating the fact that within that limitation, there is space. There is space to create. There is space to have your passion business. There is space to draw out your shine. It is hard, but incredibly rewarding. It's incredibly rewarding. And for me, every time I face that challenge, every time I jump over that hurdle, every time I feel myself getting frustrated, because I do get frustrated. I do. And that feels horrible because it's nobody's fault. It's no one's fault that these limitations exist. But as somebody who is a creative person, I'm sure if you're a creative person, you'll know that when you start to have an idea or you focus on something and you can't control when these things happen, but you can't always do something about it, it can become a very emotional thing to deal with. And I've definitely found that I have helped myself by creating the space to know that these limitations are here and to know how to work with them and not against them. And on that note, I sincerely hope that you find your most limited self. I hope that you make friends with that person. I truly hope that you work with that person within you to find the opportunities, to find the space for growth, to bend the rules a little bit, and to bring some joy when you are coming to do your to-do lists. Let's call them quest lists. Not quest lists, just quests. Quests. I need to make a notepad or something that has quests on rather than a to-do list. Yeah. Okay, my lovely. I hope you have a truly wonderful day, week, month, whatever it is that you are going into. Hold your glimmers, love them, be your best, most limited capability self. And I will see you next week in the next episode, or maybe you'll hear me. It depends where you're listening. I'd love to know where you're listening. Yeah, have a fantastic day. Take care, my lovely, and be joyful.